Good morning once again. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us for the first time, you are on time for the first interview of the day. And as promised, we're going to talk about young and diabetic, meaning that young people are also getting diabetes without knowing, and we want to see how do we prevent it, and for those that have it, how do we reverse it through natural ways. And for this particular discussion, I'm joined by an expert who's very passionate about this, and you'll get to hear her story. And she's traveled to over 40 countries just creating this awareness and education around healthy living through nutrition. I'm talking about Dr. Janie Unruh. I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, but she is a public health specialist and consultant. Welcome, Dr. Janie.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, have I pronounced your second name right? How am I supposed to pronounce your full name?
Dr. Janie Unruh.
Unruh, okay, I did it wrong. Unruh. Tell us what you're up to about your specialization before we get into the topic.
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's of nursing, master's of public health, and a PhD in public health. All of my education and all of my experience has all been around the relation of diet and disease. And my specialty then is about how to reverse and prevent disease through a whole food plant-based diet.
By food plant-based diet, that is nutrition.
It's nutrition, yes, and lifestyle. So there's other principles involved other than just diet, but it also includes making sure that we have healthy relationships, a positive attitude, we're drinking plenty of water, we're out there exercising and getting the fresh air, the sunshine, and making sure that we're getting proper rest, and all of these other principles that are really, really important.
Okay, wonderful. You mentioned before we got in air that you have traveled over 40 countries creating an awareness around this. So tell us about your mission, like why you're doing this, how did you start, why did you start?
Yeah, at almost in 1995, my first husband that I absolutely adored and loved, he ended up getting cancer, and we were married for only 40 days. We were together for 5.5 years, and after we became engaged, 3 weeks later, we found out he had cancer. And he did end up passing away, and it absolutely just broke my heart. We did get married in that time because I just loved him so much that I did not want to be left his girlfriend or fiance. I was just completely connected to him. And after he passed away, I did all the research. I just wanted to figure out why he died. And people, our friends, had started to give us some books on natural remedies. So we were moving more towards exercise and a plant-based diet, but we didn't know what that meant. And so when people said eat more fruits and vegetables, I didn't know how to define that. I didn't know that it was fresh fruits and vegetables. So I went from a diet of very little to no fresh fruits or vegetables to basically canned fruits and vegetables, and then just walking around the block. I didn't know what really exercise meant back then. And he did end up passing away, but that's when I really started to read. And that's when I started to understand more about how diet links with our health. And so now my passion, because my pain was so much that I hardly even wanted to move on in life. I didn't even want to live. And so now my passion is trying to help people to prevent and reverse disease through a whole food plant-based diet, so they don't have to go through the pain that I went through.
Oh, wow. I think that's very noble of you, using your experience to try and help others so that they don't go through what you went through, and they get relieved from the pain and from the diseases. I think that's very noble of you, and I'm sorry about that particular, experience that you had. But now that's your passion. How are you able to, how many countries have you been able to go to? And then what influences your decision to go? Like, why are you in Kenya? Why did you choose Kenya? Yeah.
Yeah, so Kenya now is country number 40 for me, and my first time actually in Africa.
Ah, wow. I hope we've made a good impression.
It's been wonderful so far. We've been here already 2 weeks. I've got a team of 5 others with me, plus a few in Kenya who are part of my team as well. And the reason that I got here was because I have a WhatsApp group, and there was a young man from Kenya who's on that group, and he was the one who invited me here.
Wow.
And so I said, there's no way that I'm only coming for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, for that cost and going halfway around the world from Canada. So I would only, I'll agree if it's 6 to 8 weeks. And so we agreed on 8 weeks. And what I'm doing now is I am going to different churches and teaching the Bible health message. And most people don't have any idea that there's any kind of message in the Bible about health.
Tell us about it. I don't know. I don't know myself. If there are a message, if there is a message on health.
Yeah, it's a simple message, and it's also one that is actually well researched. I am a researcher, so I've well researched this diet in the literature, in the major medical journals, and everything that I teach is in the journals. It's all scientific, even though it's not the way many people teach it. But I'm more after the success of disease reversal and prevention.
Okay.
And so we start with Adam and Eve, where God gave them a whole food plant-based diet. And it was just fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and everything raw. There may have not even been nuts and, beans and grains there, unless they would have been in the raw state, because there was nothing cooked in there, because there was no death. And then we can just kind of go through the Bible, and we see that the Israelites were given a plant-based diet by God after they left the Exodus with manna. And then we go through Daniel, which is a prophetic book that starts with a test of diet. And then you've got Nebuchadnezzar, that God put him on the ultimate detox diet for 7 years, where he was on an all raw diet for 7 years, and his mind came back to him. He got all of his physical health back again. And then we go to Jesus and John the Baptist, who also maintained a Nazirite vow. So, and then we go back into Revelation 22:2, where the Bible talks about the tree of life that has 12 fruits on it that produces each month, and that the leaves are for the healing of the nation. So we can just kind of sweep through Genesis to Revelation and see the progressiveness of diet.
Okay, that's very profound, because we know these stories, but you don't really look at it in that aspect. Yeah. Okay, so tell us about, let's go now to the disease diabetes, and how people associate it with old age. For most people, they think when you get to your 60s probably, then you get diabetes, but people in their 20s, you don't get diabetes.
Right.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that probably 30 years ago, that was very true, that generally the older population, it was even people in their 70s, and then as the years went by, it was people in their 60s, a few years went by, and then it was in their 50s. Now it's very common to have young people who are younger than 40 to get diabetes. Here in Kenya alone, there's almost 1 million people with diabetes. And in the next 20 years, it's expected to more than double just in Kenya alone. But this has now become a disease of all ages, not just of the old, because people are more sedentary, they're eating away from our original diet, and even the research is peppered with the benefits of a whole food, plant-based, unrefined diet. Lots of fruit, And I know that's a major misconception with people about not to eat fruit if you have diabetes. But I do have a home sanitarium that I run, and I am able to help people to reverse their diabetes through a whole food, plant-based, unrefined, gluten-free, and high fruit diet.
Okay, because I'm curious. I know a few people who have diabetes, and they've been told you need to cut on your sugars. Not cut, you need to lose sugars, especially the refined sugars, the one put on tea. Some have been told even don't take honey, the natural honey. Some have been told even when you're taking fruit, you need to limit because it still has sugars. So if you're taking like an apple, just do a slice and then take it in the morning, take the other one in the afternoon. So just give it some time. I'm like, I thought fruit is good. You know, fruits are good for our bodies to give us strength, to do all its work. But so I was wondering why that is the case, you know. So maybe you can tell us why they say that and why you think it's actually good.
Yeah. So there's a lot of misconceptions about fruit, and I think that when we look at it this way, that you've explained, how I first got into diabetes and learning about it was when I started to research the literature. I would tell people about carbohydrate counting and weighing and measuring their food, and I literally had people coming to me, my patients, and crying on my shoulder and saying, really, you want me to count my carbohydrates, and you want me to weigh and measure my food every day, every meal for the rest of my life? And they say, isn't there anything easier? I just want to eat like a normal person. And it's actually them, my patients, that drove me to the literature.
Okay.
So I started just scouring diabetes and diet, and in the US and Canada, and I'm sure you have access to it here, but there's a wonderful database called PubMed that is accessible through the government, and it's got all sorts of research, and it's just dynamic, and it is just riddled with all sorts of information on a whole foods diet. So I was just starting to look around on diabetes and fruit, and diabetes and whole grains. And then I just started to find all of this research about how animal products and eggs and dairy products are a powerful insulin producer. And I found out that meat is the most powerful insulin producer. Now, at that time, I ate meat. Well, up until just shortly before that, I ate animal products myself. But I started to change as I started to read the research. I'm like, oh, wow, so if I want to prevent diabetes, then I should probably start eating like this too. So I just started changing my diet according to the research that I was finding.
Okay.
And then I was starting to read things about refined foods, white rice, white pasta, and all pasta, and refined flour products, and then the positive benefits of fruit and vegetables. So now I'm changing my diet according to the research. And now I'm changing the way that I'm teaching according to the research. And my diabetes program actually became the #1 program in 3 states that were sister states that were all doing kind of research-based diabetes programs. And my program became the model program.
Okay.
Because people were able to reverse their disease, they were getting off of their medications, getting or reducing their cholesterol medications, their blood pressure medications, preventing kidney disease, blindness. They had less hospitalizations, less clinic visits, less ER visits. It was amazing.
So it's actually tested and proven.
Yes.
You know, that is amazing. And we want to get to know what it is about, you know, things that actually people can implement, those that have diabetes now and those that want to prevent themselves from getting diabetes. But there are these slides, and maybe you can take us through them, what they're about, and you know, information that we can get from them.
Yes, so this was from a young lady in her 30s who came to me with very, very out of control blood sugars. She's wearing a continuous glucose monitor. And every day, the first day I asked her, I said, "What are you afraid of eating?" And she says, "I'm afraid of eating potatoes and fruit." And then she said, then we got in a conversation about diet, and she said, "What's for our meal today?" I said, "Potatoes and fruit." And she was like, "Ah." And I said, "Well, you know, since your way isn't working, let's just try something different."
Okay.
And so she was willing. So this was a 10-day program that she came to. And you can see here that every single day, she was telling me that her blood sugars were looking better and better. I'm used to hearing this. This wasn't anything new to me. It wasn't rocket science. It's something pretty common for me to hear.
Okay.
And
so tell us about the blood sugars for people who don't know where the normal blood sugar should be at. Yeah.
Okay. So she came to me with a blood sugar of 18, which we want about 5.9 or less. 18 is extremely high. It is
crazy. It's to the roof. So the normal blood sugar should be around 5.9.
Yes, or less.
Or less.
Yes.
And where are the low sugars? Because we also have the low sugars.
Yeah. So somewhere around 4 to 5.9, and so by the time I figured out that what she was telling me, she'd already been at my house for 7 days. So I said, and she was telling me, she's like, "Wow, look at this." So she actually shows me her glucose monitor, and this is what I'm looking at. She says, "I have not seen 40% in range since 1991 when she first got diabetes."
Okay.
And she's been out of control ever since, 2001, not 1991, 2001. And so for almost 25 years, she had been dealing with out of control blood sugars. And she was amazed that she had 40% in range. I can't read that slide too well, so I'm going to look here.
Okay.
But so by the time 1 week was over, her blood sugars were 11.6. And with a standard deviation of 3.1, 40% in range, 24% very high, 36% high, and less than 1% very low. And that's the below the green. And then, now you can see the dates there were October 22nd of 2024, so just this last year, and November 20th of 24. So that's the last 30 days. 7 of those days she was at my house. Then you go to the next slide there. I said, you'll notice that's from November 7th to November 20th. That's for the last 14 days. So same day, but now 14 days. You can go back to that slide again.
Okay, so we're still on the first slide, producer. We're still on the first one.
So the average glucose was 10.5. Standard deviation came down to 2.9. Now 58% are in range, which is the green. And then the yellow above it was 31% of her sugars were in high and 11% very high, with no lows and no very lows. Now that's 7 days of the 14 at my house. Then I say, well, I would like to see the last 7 days at my house here at our home sanitarium. So now this third slide here, it's still November 14th to November 20th. So these are all from November 20th. Now that's all 7 days at my place, and her blood sugars on average were 8.6.
Wow.
91% of them were in range. So her blood sugars started so high that that her sugars are still high, but even though she's still 91% in range, her blood sugars are still high because we're looking at the average here. And over time. And so she's 91% in range, 1% very high, 8% high, and none very low and low. Standard deviation of 8.6. Now I ask her the next day on November 20th, you can see. I said, let's look to see what's happening in your blood sugars the last 2 days, on the 21st then. And it shows she's 100% in range.
Wow.
Her blood sugar is now 7.7 on average, and her standard deviation is now 1. This is amazing.
Absolutely amazing. What a transformation. I am curious to understand what is it that really went down for her sugars to have such improvement, you know, over that small, short period. So what really happened?
Yes, so see, when we are eating a high-fat saturated diet, what happens is that fat gets into our insulin receptor sites and clogs it. So it's like a doorknob with a key that you can put in. So you can put your key into the doorknob, it unlocks, the door opens, you go in, the door closes. That's the same with the insulin receptor site cells. So all cells have an insulin receptor site, or multiple of them. The insulin would be the key to get into the doorknob, the insulin receptor site. The insulin unlocks the door, opens the cell wall, the glucose or sugar from the bloodstream goes in, it closes when it gets all the sugar that it wants, and now the blood sugar in the stream goes down. When we have a diet that is too high in fat and saturated fat and cholesterol, it clogs it. So now the key, the insulin, can't get into the insulin receptor site. Okay. This is why people are afraid of eating fruit and carbohydrates. There's a difference, though, between processed carbohydrates and natural carbohydrates. So what happens then is I take people off of the animal products, remove their saturated fats and their cholesterol, and then I give them fruit. And initially their blood sugars might go up, and often they do, because as long as it's clogged, see, that's only half the story. That yes, it does clog it, and when we eat fruit, our blood sugars do go up. But as soon as we get rid, and that's an indirect association because the insulin can't get in. And so as soon as we remove the cause and we increase the fiber, which is included in our fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, then it removes all that clogging, and now the insulin can actually get in, open it up, blood sugars go back down again, and that's what happened here.
So you allow natural carbohydrates?
Yes.
Not the refined ones. So when you talk about the natural ones, are we talking about maize that we get straight from the farm?
Yeah, so maize or any kind of corn that is unrefined, so not made into flour. So I remove flour from all of my people, and anything that's refined, including wheat and gluten, because if we look at the glycemic index, it's not that far from white bread. So I remove all flour products and make just whole foods. So instead of making corn flour, I just cook the corn and eat the corn.
Okay, in its natural state. All right, tell us about this next one.
Yeah, so this is what I more consider to be fad diets. And these are high protein diets, high meat protein diets. So, and I've looked all of these up in Kenya, and yes, most of these are all here as well. So the Atkins, the South Beach, the Zone, the Protein Power, Eat for Your Blood Type, Ketogenic, Paleo, Carnivore Diet. These are all either they exclude fruit or they completely eliminate them.
Okay, because I'm not quite familiar with them. Like Atkins, South Beach, I don't think I know of them. I know of them. So where are they available? If one
these kinds of diets are quite popular around the world. Now, they may be called different things in different parts of the world, but they are basically high meat diets.
Which is not good.
Which would be not good if we're looking to actually reverse a condition.
Okay. So, okay.
And so I consider these, and temporarily people do lose weight on these, and temporarily they do control their blood sugars on these, but long term, no. And if you read the fine print of these kinds of diets, it actually says, like for example, the Atkins diet, it used to say right on the packaged food that came from Atkins, do not eat for more than 2 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now we're increasing our risk of all sorts of diseases. So it's not a long-term condition or a long-term solution, I mean. So what is best is when we can lose weight naturally and it's sustainable and it provides good health for long term.
So this one might help you to lose weight, but it's not sustainable,
That's
not
right.
healthy. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Let's go to the next slide and see what we have here. I hope you're being educated with this. Let's see the next slide.
Yes.
Okay.
So these are the things that are in fruit that are often not found in animal products. And even if someone doesn't go off of all of their animal products, which I have patients who don't want to go off of all of them, but what I do is I teach them to greatly reduce their animal products and then go to a high fruit diet. And then someone with diabetes on a low animal protein diet, now they can start taking fruit with no problems. I'm not talking about the refined carbohydrates, because one carbohydrate is not the same as another. And so the fruit composition that is often that we don't think about that are not in animal products, phytochemicals, antioxidants, bioflavonoids, all these vitamins and minerals and fiber. It's got no cholesterol, no saturated fat, it's low in sodium, fat, and calories compared to other food groups, next to vegetables, of course. And they are high in simple carbohydrates, but they're whole carbohydrates, unrefined. And that's what our body actually wants in order to run efficiently. All fruit has all amino acids, which is a huge misconception. Research used to believe, that's one of the things I love about research, is it used to show that fruit was low in all of the amino acids and many of them were missing. But the new research shows that all fruit has all amino acids. So someone who's on a whole food plant-based diet, they don't need animal products.
Okay, and this, I'm saying that this reduces the risk of kidney diseases.
It does.
Okay.
Yes, it's amazing. So we can eat fruit in abundance and not gain weight. We can actually lose weight. Fruit helps us to eliminate toxins at a cellular level. It is calorically life-sustaining. So if all we ate was fruit, we actually could live healthfully for a time. Now, we will miss some nutrients that are found in greens, but if we had fruit and greens and a few nuts and seeds, that's actually all we would need. Now, we do want to, most people, we want to add more variety to our diet, like beans and grains. And a high fruit diet helps to eliminate cravings of all kinds. And there's no other food group that has the nutrient panel of fruit. And it is just so rich with fiber and vitamins A and C and folate and potassium and calcium and iron.
Okay, and we're talking about all fruits. All fruits provide all this that you mentioned.
So we don't even need to know all of this or what specific fruit has what specific components. Just have a nice wide variety of fruits every single day.
Okay, and is it true, because we're usually told that it's better to eat one fruit whole instead of, you know, how people want it to, you know, to mix everything up, that you don't get as much nutrients from that, you know, compared to eating it by itself?
So yes, we want to eat whole foods whole. That's my principle. And so whether we, like if we're going to take a mango and a banana, we would, at least I peel my mangoes. I know many people eat the skin, but I put my mango in a blender with a banana and maybe some strawberries, and I make it into a smoothie. Now that would be totally fine because I'm still eating whole food.
Oh, okay.
It's whole food whole. It's not processed, meaning I'm not taking anything out. Like with white rice, I'm taking the bran off of the outside of the rice.
Okay.
And so the key is to eat whole foods whole.
eat whole food. And even if I want to mix them up, cut them together, mix them up as a pudding, that's also fine.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Wonderful. And
So-
at the end, I even have examples of different meals that are high fruit based.
All right. So let's go to the next slide then. All right. Let's see the next one. What do we have? Misconceptions about fruit. Okay. So there they go.
Yeah, so a lot of people have misconceptions about fruit, and such as don't eat bananas and grapes or they'll make you fat with that carb overload. If that were a true statement, I would need to be on a weight loss program.
Whoa.
I eat a lot of bananas, and I've eaten bananas, a lot of bananas for probably 30 years.
Okay.
And I have no problems maintaining my weight.
So that's a myth.
And mangoes and cherries have too much sugar. We often hear that. I do check my blood sugars quite routinely because people want to know how my body does and others. But you saw previously in that 30-year-old person who came to my place, you saw that even that the difference is the natural compared to the refined sugars.
Okay.
So we also hear cranberries will cause kidney stones. We hear that oranges can erode our teeth enamel. And if that were true, I wouldn't have any teeth left. Don't eat limes because it can give you a rash or interfere with some medications. Now, when it comes to medications, definitely you have to work with your doctor on that. I don't deal with medications with people because I'm a PhD. I do work with doctors. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't give information on medications. Don't eat leafy greens because it interferes with medications. And I find that this is ironic because when people are on anticoagulants, it helps with as a blood thinner, but yet vitamin K is a powerful natural blood thinner.
Okay.
And it's found in greens. And so what I do is I work with the patient and their anticoagulation nurse, and I say, okay, we're going to put the patients on a high green diet, and this is what they're going to do, and they're going to eat it consistently throughout the day and every single day without exception, and they're always happy with that. Because that's the problem is when people go up and down on their greens. Some days they'll have lots, some days they'll have none, and sometimes they'll have a little. So I educate the patient to have a moderate amount of greens.
Consistently.
So it's sustainable, yeah, and it works with the doctor, it works with the nurse, it works with the medication. So, but some of my patients want to get off of medication, so I work with the doctor in those situations.
All right.
And then we're told don't eat strawberries because they're bad for the environment. And I don't even know where some of these things come from.
Because why are they
it's
bad?
not in the research. Fad diets always include either skipping or eliminating or reducing our fruit. But yet I believe that is what we need to do. That's my counsel to people. And then, so I think that when we start to see fruit really for what it is, we can really gain some good health benefits out of it.
Okay, wonderful. So now, if anyone had such misconception, it's been debunked very well. I know that the next slide will talk about fruits. Maybe we can say it. Yeah, fruit reduces the risk of diseases, and this I'm seeing most of them are the chronic diseases, right?
Yes.
Diabetes, heart disease, obesity, cancer, cardiovascular disease, kidney, hypertension, lipidemia, I've not heard of that. Stroke, promotes bone health, detoxification, and it goes on and on. Maybe you'll what is hyperlipidemia?
Hyperlipidemia is high lipids or high cholesterol.
Okay.
Which, you know, this list also includes arthritis and gout and all sorts of things. A high fruit diet is just amazing. And especially for some of these people, like with diabetes, who are told don't eat fruit, but yet this is how I help them.
Okay, so fruit is actually good. Even as we're going through this, I'm just saying the benefits of foods, and we usually take it for granted. We're told eat a fruit every day, and people still like, that's a luxury. I eat fruits when I want to, but it should be essential in our diet, especially if you don't even have the chronic diseases. It it helps your body, right?
Right. Now we're into disease prevention if we don't already have a disease or symptoms.
Okay. All right. Tell us about now this, and then the next slide is properties low or not found in animal products. And when we talk about animal products, we are talking about even white meat, because you know it's usually advised red meat. You can cut back on red meat, but increase your white meat intake because they are healthy. So when you talk about animal products, it cuts across the board.
Yeah, for me in my program, that's what I do. I eliminate all animal products. But like I had mentioned, not everybody wants to remove animal products. So I work with them how to incorporate them. And that includes always to reduce them, lots and lots of fruits, get off the refined flour products, and to get rid of all the refined carbohydrates of every kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, this are some of the properties that are found in the animal products that are bad, right?
These are things that are not found in animal products.
Or properties low or not. Aha. Okay. Yeah. Because we have antioxidants, vitamin K, the vitamins. All right. Now I get it. Amazing. So let's take a look at some of the images that we have there on your food guide, right?
Yes, so this is what I would consider, this is what I teach now. This is how I teach my food guide pyramid. This is how I help treat my patients. This is how I feed them in my program. And this is how I counsel them in my consultations. So this bottom rung is all fruit. And I use words like eat fruit abundantly, freely, liberally, best, superior. I think fruit is a huge blessing. We should eat more of them. We can do fruit fasts very safely. We should depend upon more and eat largely of fruit. So those are my descriptions for fruit.
So fruit fast is just fasting, but you're taking fruits.
Fruit only.
Fruit only.
Yeah, a fruit fast only for a couple of days is amazing for people who are thinking a lot. They might have a lot on their mind.
Okay.
They just you know, or they're even trying to get over a certain disease, or if they have a cold or anything. I recommend a fruit fast for a couple of days.
So fruit for breakfast, for lunch, dinner. That's
only fruit.
That's interesting.
But the key is that people have to get enough calories, though. So, as an example, if someone eats 2 meals a day, for example, like I do, I eat breakfast and then a later lunch at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I don't eat for the rest of the day. So my 1,500 calories would include, say, 7 or 8 bananas only for breakfast and the same for lunch. Now, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying to only eat that.
Okay.
I mean, you just, get a nice wide variety. But I'm just giving you an example that we have to get enough calories, because otherwise we're just not going to feel good. We might get nauseous because of detox symptoms, and we're just, we might even get a headache, but, we're going to get weak. And then I recommend large amounts of salads. So when I serve salad, I'm talking about a serving bowl size of salad. And then, of course, our starches, which you guys are really good in, and then all of our water-based vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, carrots. So in the words that I use to describe vegetables that we should eat largely with fruits and vegetables, we should encourage vegetables along with a high fruit diet. They need to be properly prepared. They need to be well prepared. And there are some people who can't use some certain vegetables. And then the next higher up would be beans and grains with fruits and vegetables. Some people can't use them. They should be well prepared and without grease. So I don't use any oil at all, not even coconut oil or anything.
Okay.
And then the very top would be nuts. Of the plant-based foods, the most difficult to digest would be nuts, but the animal world foods are even much, much more difficult to digest than nuts. But I say we should not use them too much. We use them unwisely. Some are less wholesome than others, such as almonds are healthier than peanuts, but there's nothing wrong with peanuts. Do not use them freely, that they're very rich. and we should just use a fraction of them of what's in the recipes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Let's have a look at the next slide, because I know the pictures.
So this is what my counter looks like after I get back from the grocery store or the market. And this is only what the counter looks like. This doesn't show what my freezer looks like or my refrigerator. This is only the things that are sitting on the counter. And I need to start adding pictures of my refrigerator and freezer. Yeah.
I'm sure it's more like this still. Okay, next slide.
And these are some of the meals then that I offer my clients as they come. So here you can see this is a flat bread that is 100% flax. And then it's got guacamole on it. And this is a smoothie bowl. And it's got then more cut fruit on it along with hemp hearts. And those are some smoothie bowls as well with different toppings on them. And then on the far, we have another smoothie bowl. And those bread, the brown pieces there are bread. And that's black bean bread that I make along with some hummus.
Interesting. Nice. So if anyone can adapt this, then this is a meal that you're supposed to have next.
So this is whole fruit instead of a bowl. And then some cereal, that's a homemade granola that I've made. And then I've got pomegranates and pears and then some other fruit and waffles. And then I've got another pomegranate with other fruit. And then that bowl there is millet. So you see how much fruit I have in compared to the side dish. So I use my beans and my grains as a side dish, and my fruit is the main portion of my meal.
Wow, I love it. Interesting. Next slide.
Yeah, and it's these carbohydrates. I give these kind of carbohydrates to my people with diabetes because they're often afraid of them. So I give them whole grain waffles and whole grain homemade granola. So more smoothie bowls and some greens with fruit, and that's a cucumber salad. And down in the bottom corner here is what I call my banana split. And that is a banana that's been cut in half. It's got 100% fruit, strawberry, raspberry ice cream. And then in the middle, it's got 100% banana ice cream. And then there on the far right is 100% mango ice cream that I make myself, just out of fruit. That's it. And then the brown liquid that you see kind of oozing down, that is only dates and water, and that's it. And so that's with some chopped nuts.
That is creative. So like you'll not get ice cream, that's processed, but you'll make your own ice cream that is healthy. I think I love it. We have the last one. Let's see the last one.
So then this here, this is 100% buckwheat bread with a topping, and that is hummus as well. And then I have, that's hummus up there, and then you see how big my plate is. These are large plates. These are regular plates, and they're just always packed with fruit. And then there's times that I only eat melons, because melons are a wonderful kidney cleanse, and they just feel so good, and they make us light on our feet. They're really cleansing.
Wow. Someone told me that melon takes a longer time to digest. Is that true compared to other fruits? No,
melons actually go through the system very, very fast.
Okay.
Yeah,
so many myths. That's another myth that you've just debunked. Okay. All right. Someone was asking about how best to take fruits, whether whole, as it is, or blending it. But I know you mentioned it already. You answered to that because you said whichever way you prefer, as long as it's the natural fruit, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
People generally, our bodies do really well, and it prefers whole food, so it prefers whole fruit. But there is nothing wrong with having smoothies or smoothie bowls on occasion, and I often have them maybe once or twice a week. I routinely have smoothie bowls.
Okay, great. Someone was asking, how is it possible to manage diabetes, even for a woman who's pregnant and they just got diabetes while pregnant. So is it the same? Would that still apply, your method?
Yes, still applies.
Okay, so to everyone it cuts across.
Yes.
And then looking at diabetes, the two types of diabetes that are there, all right, is it also the same? Because I know type 2 diabetes. So maybe tell us about that different types of diabetes for those that don't know, the ones that is inherited and acquired, and are both of them reversed? Is it reversible for both of them, or is it only the acquired diabetes because of the lifestyle that you can reverse?
Okay.
Yeah.
So type 2 generally in the past, historically, has been for the adult kind, type 2. Type 1 was historically for people that were younger, up until maybe in their 20s or 30s, but anything after that, but that was lifestyle related. So type 2 is generally lifestyle. Type 1 is an autoimmune condition, and I treat them both the same. Okay. Now, it is more difficult to get somebody who has type 1 off of insulin, but there are cases where it has happened. Okay. And it's very exciting. Especially if they just find out they have type 1 and they go to a whole food plant-based diet and anything refined to remove all the animal products. And there is actually a really good research article out there in reversing type 1 when they get to it early. And then there's also a documentary out there that they took people with diabetes type 1 and 2, and they put them on a whole food, plant-based, all raw diet, and they actually reversed their diabetes type 1. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's incredible. If a type 1 can reverse diabetes, then definitely it is reversible.
It takes effort. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes patience, and it takes a lot of changing, and people have to be willing to learn. Yeah, and it's a process. So it's generally not an overnight thing. It's an educational thing. People have to learn day by day and week by week and month by month to make these changes.
Okay. Would you say it's expensive to adapt to this lifestyle, the healthy lifestyle? Because people also have the view that this would be, the natural lifestyle would be a bit more expensive than this.
I'm so glad you asked me that, because there is research out there that shows that a whole food plant-based diet is actually much cheaper than an animal-based diet.
Okay.
And plus, we get to save the lives of animals, and we have that satisfaction of not aiding in that process.
Okay, so you're good and the animals are good.
I love animals.
Okay, that's fair enough. It would be hard for people like me who love chicken, but we could try, because you don't have to really go completely off of it. Which countries would you say have? Kenya, you mentioned we have 1 million currently, the statistics.
Yeah, it's almost 900,000, close to a million.
Close to a million, right?
Yeah.
Which country rather have the highest, if you have an idea of it?
I don't know, but I know that the United States, and there's a few European countries that are way up there. Yeah.
And that is highly because of the lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and Canada's up there as well, but not as high as the U.S. But yeah, it's because of our urbanization. People are just not exercising. We're eating highly refined foods, too many animal products, not enough fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds.
Okay, so I think in Kenya we actually have an added advantage, because we have a lot of whole the plant products. A lot of them we have greens. When you talk about vegetables, we have different types of grains everywhere. We have fruits, they're easily available to us. And I saw something very interesting. In Kenya, people associate meat products, animal products, with wealth, and people who take vegetables usually look like they're not doing well in life, and it's something that we have had growing up, so it's a perception that probably needs to be changed. And I saw some interesting article that says in Kenya, the person who eats vegetables and considered a poor person is the opposite of someone in the Western countries. People who actually take, vegetables and plant-based diets, actually the rich ones, in the West. So I think we need to change the perception.
Yes, so the history used to be the peasants ate the whole foods whole, and it was the kings and the rich that ate the refined foods, which created disease in them. And eventually, as these refined foods became more affordable for the peasants, they started to eat them too. Now the tables have changed, and the peasants are eating the cheap food and refined, and those who are more affluent now know the truth, and they are eating more plant foods, and now they are enjoying more health again.
Actually, so it is true. We need to change that. Thank you very much, Dr. Janie. We'll close it at this. I know we could there's so much to talk about, but we've gotten a lot already from this discussion. So we appreciate your time. I want you to give us your social media handles if you are okay with that, for people who have questions and would like to reach out, especially about, if they want to get a plan on doing this, if they want to enroll for a program, or if you're offering any, and any other details that you may want to add, a closing remark maybe. This is your camera.
You would like me to share my phone number and email on?
Whichever you're comfortable with, maybe email, phone number, you might get overwhelmed. Yeah.
How about if I give you my email and anyone who calls in?
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. It's okay, completely fine. Do you have a website?
It's actually under construction right now.
All right.
But it will be up soon, probably after I get back from Kenya. I've been here 2 weeks, and I'm going to be here another 6 weeks, so be patient. But my email is DR for doctor, DR Janie, Janie, at progressivelyraw.com. Okay. And my business website, when it gets back up again, is progressivelyraw.com.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Janie. We do appreciate this. This particular conversation. We've gotten a lot of insights. We hope to have you again when you're back in Kenya.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. That has been Dr. Janie, and we've been talking about young and diabetic, but a lot of focus on plant-based diet and why that could actually help prevent diabetes and actually reverse diabetes. Not just diabetes, but this applies to all chronic illnesses that are there, like kidney failure, cancer, amongst so many other things. I hope you have taken something from this. We now take a short break, and then Kalami Val will be back with some interesting entertainment interviews. Stick with us.